Survivor Series 2025, and the vision has pushed too many too far, and it's resulted in war, specifically war games. But this is where the infiltration happens, but it's not only from the outside of the match, it's from the inside as well. Because it becomes very apparent that Drew McIntyre is in charge of the three men who are tearing war games apart, and they focus exclusively on Cody Rhodes. They leave him vulnerable and the victim of a claymore, which gives Drew McIntyre and the Vision the victory, and speculation is rife because Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce want to know if Seth Rollins has anything to do with it. But of course he doesn't. And the denial is justified because stepping in is Drew and Arn Anderson. And Anderson says he's right. It's got nothing to do with them. This has everything to do with Cody Rhodes. We chose War Games for a very specific reason. That was the match his daddy made, trying to stop us. Instead, we used it to stop him. He hasn't come anywhere near being the champion I taught him to be, but this man is. And we're taking it all. And we're going to use people that Cody has held down to do it. Arn is guiding McIntyre, and there's more disciples of the Horsemen to be revealed. And we get a sneak peek into who they are when Anderson and McIntyre are in the ring being shrouded in booze while they preach their message again. And they call out Cody Rhodes. But as his music hits, they know full well he's not going to come out, because on the Tron, we see the three other Horsemen beating the hell out of Rhodes. And once again, it feels like a throwback, just like War Games did. It's so similar to when the four Horsemen assaulted Cody's father, Dusty, back in the 80s. But it's not only a similar beatdown, it's a similar outcome, because they hold Cody's arm down and they break it with a baseball bat. And Arn Anderson makes sure Cody knows that this is only the beginning, and that the champion professional wrestling needs is Drew McIntyre, not some fence sitter who cries at the drop of a hat like his former protege. And the first step will be for McIntyre to try and win the Royal Rumble, and the Horsemen say they are going to ride into Riyadh to make sure it happens. But first, they want to clean up the jokers and the frauds, and they brutally blow through R-Truth on SmackDown and make sure the message is sent that there is no room in this business for any time wasters or comedians. And they indeed waste no time in hitting the Royal Rumble to do the exact same thing to so many other competitors. And Drew largely does this all on his own until it gets to the Final Four, where it's Randy Orton, Jey Uso and Roman Reigns all trying to ensure Drew McIntyre doesn't make it. But it's Jey who ensures Roman doesn't advance because he takes both of them out of commission. Jey and Roman have been on a collision course for weeks, and now it's all but confirmed that they're going to have to settle it. However, this opens the door for Randy, who tries to throw Drew out, but he hangs on, and as Randy is stalking him as he gets back in the ring, he doesn't realize he is actually the one being stalked. You see this, Rhodes? This is what happens when you leave people behind. This is what happens when you go into business for yourself. You get what's coming to you. It's real simple. You're on borrowed time, and Drew chooses you to face at WrestleMania. If you have the... Cody is back, and he's honing in on the Royal Rumble winner. But not only that, the man who helped break his arm in the parking lot. And he fights with everything, and he very wisely uses his cast as a weapon. But it seems to be failing, because it's 2-on-1. Shawn Spears and Drew McIntyre are too much. But this is what brings out Cody's own backup, Randy Orton. He wants his own measure of revenge, because Spears cost him everything at the Royal Rumble, and it's on. He more than evens the odds. He gets Cody back in control. But of course, there is more than just the two they're fighting. There are 4 Horsemen. which comes into play later in the night because Orton has vowed to silence this group. But before he can even consider that, he needs to try and silence the chairman. And Shawn Spears, backed by Arn Anderson and Drew McIntyre, is all business. It's the second chance for him on the main roster, and he does not want to waste it, and he's more dangerous than ever. And as the match wears on, Spears, who had control, sees it slipping. And this is where Drew and Arn have to start getting involved, which fires up Cody immediately, who sprints around ringside to get at them. And he and Drew fight off up the ramp. But that leaves Arn with his chance, and he slides in the ring, but he gets caught in the crosshairs of the Viper. He was ready for it, and he's gonna strike. The third Horseman is Lexus Pillman, the son of Brian, a former member. And he looks as wild-eyed as his father did when he joined all those years ago. And this group has just become even more unpredictable. And that's what he says in an unhinged video he puts out after the show.
You know, some people call us a gang. Some people call us a militia. We call it a dynasty. It's about damn time I got my shot. I looked at guys like Rhodes. I looked at guys like Orton, and it makes me sick. Watching guys like that take my chances, well, that ain't gonna fly anymore. But I will. We're coming for all the gold, and there ain't nothing you can do.
This group has just recruited a total loose cannon, and Cody is clearly concerned. And he then gets approached by someone who has the same concerns, and it's US champion Sami Zayn. And he suggests that the champions should come together to make sure the Horsemen don't take this thing over. And Cody loves this idea. And he asks Sami if he can have their back because he and Randy have a tag team battle against Spears and Pillman at Elimination Chamber. And Sami says he absolutely will help. But not only has Cody asked Sami for help, he was spotted later in the week heading into the Performance Center to potentially talk to some friends of his own. And with that, attention then turns to the giant co-main event and the in-ring main roster debut of Lexus Pillman. And he works seamlessly with Spears because they both clearly learned a thing or two under the tutelage of Arn Anderson, who was an absolute tag team specialist. But he was also a specialist of getting the illegal upper hand, and that's what he and the centerpiece of this whole operation, Drew McIntyre, do best. They use the advantage to its fullest, but Sami made a promise and he hits the arena and he beelines towards ringside, but then he gets brutally wiped out by the fourth Horseman. But it's within this carnage that the referee also gets knocked down, and it opens it up. Spears takes out Cody at ringside, and it leaves the legal men who are Orton and Pillman. And that's when it happens. Like clockwork, the masked man nails Randy Orton from behind, and Arn is directing traffic at ringside, making it all happen, including watching on as a new referee runs down to ringside to make the count on Orton. And it causes a major stir. Not just because this is a massive pinfall for Pillman, but also because Arn goes to work behind the scenes. He approaches Nick Aldis, who is dressing down Charles Robertson over not DQing Pillman and Spears. He says he must have seen something, but Robertson denies it. And then Arn Anderson bursts in to make things worse, and he says that that tag team win should mean something, and that Spears and Pillman are demanding a championship match. And Aldis replies with a straight up yes, but only if they can win a number one contenders match with none of the Horsemen at ringside in any capacity. To which Arn replies, "Don't play these games with the master. You'll never win. Our reach is far greater than you think." It's hard to know exactly what Arn means by that, but it isn't hard to understand what Cody is thinking when he comes out to confront, but also sign on the dotted line for his match with McIntyre at WrestleMania. And Cody explains that Drew has become everything he ever hated. He's now backed by a group. He's now cheating to win. He's taking the low roads, and all of it smells a hell of a lot like Roman Reigns. And Drew takes exception to this and says that he would much rather be like Roman Reigns, who actually elevated his family, than you, who killed them all off for your own benefit. And it gets tense, and Arn Anderson, with a famous gesture from a famous promo in another company, signs off. But there is no violence. But they promise there will be gold. And that quest for gold picks up in the number one contenders match that surprisingly is won as clean as a whistle by this new team of Spears and Pillman. They make a genuine statement. However, so do the champions. And the Wyatts attack under the cover of darkness. But this attack angers Arn, who complains to Aldous that they played by the rules. And look what happened. And Aldous says that he appreciates it, and now all they have to do is do the same thing against the Wyatts, and they will be champions. Because he also bans any Wyatt family members from ringside for the match, and it goes off without a hitch, until the reach that Arn talked about comes to fruition. And we see Charles Robinson blatantly ignoring a pinning attempt from Dexter Lumis, and then he fast counts the fall for the Horsemen. And he literally hands them their first piece of gold. It's unbelievable. Or is it? Because as eagle-eyed fans point out, Robinson has been paid off in the past by Arn Anderson and the Four Horsemen. And it's happened again. But the celebrations are soured somewhat because Nick Aldis storms out to ringside and suspends Charles Robinson without pay. However, this is when Drew McIntyre points out that he will be getting paid far more than any WWE contract. And with Drew signed, sealed and delivered for WrestleMania, and Randy Orton being taken out of the picture to help Cody by the returning Chris Jericho, there is nothing Aldis can do but strap in and watch the dynasty grow. But what he also sees grow is the overwhelming support from many people for this reunion. One in particular. But not everyone is as enthusiastic. And after an attack from the mysterious Fourth Horseman, Sami Zayn is demanding he shows up at the show of shows to fight him. Because if they want all the gold on SmackDown, they need his title. And no broken nose, broken arm, or broken system is going to stop him from fighting for what's right. But Sami, sure as hell, isn't the only one who is filled with emotion over this whole saga. And Cody Rhodes takes a position in front of a very familiar looking background to deliver a very simple but emotional message. My father once stood here in the midst of giving this business everything. He gave his body, he gave his soul, he gave his heart. And there were nights when he walked into that ring and he had to look across and see Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn and Ole Anderson. And every single time, they tried to take everything from him. They broke his bones. They tried to break his spirit. They robbed him of the one thing he wanted more than anything in the world. My father never got to see me win the world title, just like his father never got to see him win it. And now you, Drew McIntyre, and your Horsemen think you're gonna take it from me? Let me tell you, I am not my father's tragedy, I am his redemption. You broke my arm, you left me laying, you laughed in my face, and you thought I would just fade away, but let me tell you something about the Rhodes family. We don't fade, we fight. And it won't just be me. I've made a couple of calls of my own, and Drew, I'm begging you to try and do it one-on-one, but if you don't, there will be people there. The Four Horsemen gave my father hard times, but these people all over the world, they stood by him, they believed in him, and now in 2026, they believe in me. So Drew, Arn, Spears, Pillman, and whoever you drag into that stable of cowards, hear me now. At WrestleMania, I'm walking in as WWE Champion. I'm gonna walk in with the weight of my father's legacy on my shoulders, and I swear to you, I will walk out the same way. Because this time, the son of the plumber is not going to be your victim. This time, Cody Rhodes is going to give the Horsemen their own hard times. A rivalry steeped in rich history, not just from the 80s, but from the current day between these two. Personal doesn't even begin to describe the rivalry when it comes to Cody. His former mentor, Arn Anderson, is now fighting for his demise. His friend, Sean Spears, and his protege, Lexus Pillman, standing on guard to make sure it happens as well. And despite his arm being nowhere near 100%, Cody channels his father. And he fights with everything he's got against the tyranny of the Four Horsemen. He's fighting for much more than just a championship, and it shows. But this is when it all falls apart, because Arn, just like he would have done to Dusty, begins to meddle in the battle, and he can see it crushes Cody. He's starting to realise that perhaps Drew was right. Everyone who helped him has been burned. Or so he thinks. Because two of his closest friends from NXT, Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, storm the stage. This is who Cody visited at the Performance Center. And we see Ricky Saints stave off Pillman and Spears, and it gives Page the chance to run to ringside. Drew McIntyre is beside himself, and he's calling for the masked man to show themselves. And it's then Cody nails him with the Crossroads. 1, 2. Ethan Page is the fourth Horseman, and he leans in and says, I was your friend, Cody, but you never saw me as your equal. They do. Dusty couldn't win it from them, and now Cody can't keep it from them. But not only do they take all the gold, the Horsemen take everything else from Cody. And the landscape and the future of WWE has been changed by its past.